In what wasn't exactly the most attractive Thursday night college football matchup this season, Mississippi State defeated Kentucky 28-22. Mark Rogers TV here to talk about the Bulldogs this season, but more specifically, head coach Dan Mullen's fate in Starkville. Sophomore quarterback Dak Prescott turned in his most impressive outing of the season, 268 yards through the air, 33 on the ground, 23 of 34, 2 touchdowns and no picks against a quality opponent, his most impressive outing. And the Bulldogs again win at 28-22. Prescott also caught a 17-yard touchdown reception from Jamie Lewis, who also ran for a touchdown and caught a touchdown himself. That's the second time this season Lewis has caught a touchdown, ran a touchdown, and threw a touchdown in the same game. Senior quarterback Tyler Russell, the starter in 2012 when he threw 24 touchdown passes and led the Bulldogs to 8 wins, was supposed to get into this football game for some serious playing time, and unfortunately he hurt his ankle, only threw 2 passes, only carried the football twice. He's a pocket passer who's lost his job this season to Prescott, and it's unfortunate to see Tyler Russell's career end like this. And also Ladarius Perkins, who had an outstanding 1,000-yard season in 2012. He's been hampered by injuries as well. Still leads the Bulldogs in rushing, but 65 yards tonight, and not finishing his career as he had anticipated as well for the Bulldogs. Now let's turn our attention to Dan Mullen. 4-3 this season, 1-2 in the SEC. Okay, if we run down the situation with Dan Mullen, we see that he's kind of setting a trend at Mississippi State, one that could be expected at a program that struggles to win in the SEC. In his second season in Starkville, he's been there for 5 years now. Second season, his best season, 9-4, finished in the top 15 after annihilating Michigan in the Gator Bowl. Again, 9-4 in that season. Then they went 7-6 the next season after winning a bowl game, the Music City Bowl against Wake Forest. Last season got off to the hot start, finished 8-5 after losing to Northwestern in the Gator Bowl there. Again, this season's going to be a struggle to get to the 6 bowl wins, or the 6 wins required to get to a bowl game. Mississippi State winning their first SEC game tonight. They are 4-3, and here's the slate coming up. They're at South Carolina, at Texas A&M. Then they take on the number 1 team in the land, Alabama. And unless this is 1980 or 1996, I don't see a win there. All right, then a winnable game certainly at Arkansas before they close out against the superior Ole Miss team. But that's a winnable game, but certainly Ole Miss will be a strong favorite in that game. It's going to be very difficult for the Bulldogs to win 6 games to get to a bowl game in Dan Mullen's 5th season. Again, 9-4 defeated Michigan in the Gator Bowl, 15th in the country. That was back in 2010. Then 7-6 defeated Wake Forest in a bowl game before losing to Northwestern to cap off an 8-5 season. So that's 33-25 for Dan Mullen, 14-21 in the SEC. More specifically, though, it follows a pattern. The pattern for Mississippi State is they basically schedule no one non-conference. Now, they stepped it up this season in scheduling a neutral game to open the season against Oklahoma State. They lost to the Cowboys 21-3. Oklahoma State with only 1 loss, a top 25 team. But typically, this is the mold for Mississippi State football, specifically in the last 10 or 15 years. And certainly under Dan Mullen, where they don't schedule anyone out of conference. They win all those games, then they step in the SEC and usually go like 3-5, possibly 4-4. But you can see at 14-21 in the SEC under Dan Mullen, it's typically winning 3 in the SEC and 4 or 5 out of conference, typically 4 out of conference, and getting to a bowl game and then playing in a mid-tier bowl game. Now, Mississippi State fans, this is where I'd like you to step up. Is that good enough for you? Because if you look at trying to compete with Alabama and LSU and now Texas A&M in the SEC West, we're not even mentioning in-state rival Ole Miss. Do you want to continue to win 5, 6, 7 football games, go to decent, okay bowl games, and have that kind of existence with Dan Mullen at the helm? The other troubling thing is that he came in as kind of an offensive guru from the University of Florida, where he was the offensive coordinator there. Mississippi State not exactly lighting it up this season or any season under Dan Mullen. First of all, probably not getting the type of recruits needed to light up SEC defenses, and not necessarily showing the offensive imagination to generate those kind of points either. They've only scored 30 points once this season against an FBS team, and that was Troy. So the offense has not been there. And again, a typical season is winning just 3 in the SEC, barely getting to a bowl game. So is that good enough for Mississippi State? Well, it doesn't sound good enough for most college football fans, but we've got to put this in historical perspective. Mississippi State has not had a head coach retire or leave from Mississippi State with a winning record in 60 years. That includes Jackie Sherrill. Putting his tenure in perspective, he certainly won fairly big at Mississippi State. A lot of 8-9 win seasons in Mississippi State. Got to a lot of bowl games, but finished disastrously. That really brought down his record. He finished an even 500 at Mississippi State. So Dan Mullen actually at 33-25 with by far the best record of a head coach at Mississippi State going back to the 1930s and 40s. Is that good enough for you, Mississippi State Bulldog fans? Would love to hear from you on your expectations of Dan Mullen and Mississippi State football here in the 2000s as we head toward 2020. Can you compete with Alabama, Ole Miss? Certainly you can, Ole Miss, but Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M at Mississippi State. Need to hear from you now on Mark Rogers TV.